Yeah, right, here's the mess the local Nissan dealer left for me. My brand new 2009 Nissan Frontier after they changed the oil filter the first time. Check it out. See all that sludge on this cross member, all that oil crap on that cross member there, and all of it over here, and oil dripping off the oil filter. And I even managed to get it way over here on the sway bar somehow. And here's the oil pan. You can bet it wasn't like that from the factory with all those paw prints and oil crap all over it like that. Yeah. So there's where the oil filter is on your 2009 Nissan Frontier. And it may be on slightly older and newer ones as well. Let me show you. Yeah, here's the two plates actually it's three plates I removed from the bottom to give you these views. That little one there, that's the oil filter access plate, or it is in theory anyway. And these other two plates, see that? All that. There's the big skid plate, or so-called skid plate. It's made out of plastic, okay? All that oil on the back, that's from the dealer. This car doesn't even have 3,200 miles on it yet, okay? This is what they left me, souvenir. And this plate goes, it's the lower front bumper trim, this long, narrow one. You have to take that one off in order to get the skid plate off. Okay, so yeah, I got to clean all this crap, put it all back together the correct way, you know, without oil drippings all over it. That ought to take a couple hours or so. You know, this is why I take my own, this is why I do my own oil changes. They don't need to leave all this mess if they do it right. But hey, you know, why would they want to bother, you know? And yeah, I read the online exposés about supposedly being able to reach in from the right side. Here's the right front of the car and of the truck. And keep in mind the pans are removed now. If you look closely, maybe you can see the oil filter sticking out there. It's white with oil dripping. Yeah, it's more or less parallel with the frame. It sticks out toward the front of the truck. And the distance from where I'm pointing right here, which is the edge of the frame rail, to the center of the oil filter, I make to be in the neighborhood of 18 inches or 1.5 feet. So in order to reach up in there from the side and grasp that oil filter like some websites suggest you do, you'd have to be awful flexible and probably have the strength of Hercules. I don't think that's a doable do, but it might be for some guys, I don't know. So and to change that oil filter just by taking off that small postcard sized plate, that seems like an more or less a virtual impossibility. So I haven't decided. It looks to me like this thing needs to be relocated or something. It's quite a nuisance.
You can't rebuild your car, though.
Okay, we're underneath the driver's side of my 2008 Nissan Frontier now. Got it up on jack stands, and I've slid underneath the driver's door. Okay, so here's the oil filter. See that white? Where is it? That white label on that crossbar, that steering rack and pinion or whatever it is. Above that white label, you can see that white triangular shape, which is the oil filter sticking out toward the front of the truck. Now, I'm zooming back out as best I can here, and you'll notice that this thing here that I'm tapping on, the bottom of the oil pan. And thing here at the front is the bottom of the front cross member. And here's the bottom. I'll just call this the rear cross member, okay? So here's the rear cross member, the bottom of the oil pan, the front cross member. And this is a metal rod, which is more or less straight. Not quite long enough for this. But those three things are all in one plane. So you'll notice that right above this metal rod, in this space right here, there's a huge space. This is where the oil filter could be located. Relocated to this space. See, I got enough space to open up my hand here. There's easily enough space in that area right there for a football and possibly even a basketball. But in any event, it would easily fit a football across, and that oil filter is only the size of a very small juice can. So that oil filter really should be relocated, I would think, to this space right here, where you could unscrew it from the bottom right here. And this is not behind any kind of cover. And obviously it could be see, there's that metal rod, okay? And there's plenty of space there for it, okay? You know, and that's where it could be, but that's where it's not. It's at the front where you have to take off 3 different access panels to get to it. So you know, the whole thing is kind of baffling why it's in such a awkward location. Okay, now I'm around the front of the truck. I'm tapping on this is the front cross member right there. There's the oil pan, and there's the rear cross member. This space where the rod is right now is not covered by any pans, skid pan or anything else, okay? So, see that giant space above the rod? That could easily accommodate the oil filter. I would think, take the oil filter, which is here. Keep in mind that this oil filter is behind a bunch of shrouds. You essentially, if you want to have any room to move, practically speaking, you're duty bound to take off all 3 of those covers, which I took off. If you have super strength, you might be able to reach up through that tiny hole and unscrew this oil filter. But I doubt it. I'm not going to try right now, okay, because it was just put on. This is supposedly a brand new one. However, you might could put one on by reaching up through that hole, assuming you had the car up on a lift, okay? But to get one off, it'd be a murder. And actually, to get it off, even when it's shrouding off, there's not an awful lot of room. I ordinarily use this gigantic arc joint pliers. It's a Sears thing to remove my oil filters. But I have used other methods like puncturing them and twisting them off and mangling them off as best you can, and strap wrenches and all sorts of crap. But there's not an awful lot of room in there. I don't know if you can get a grasp on that situation. Get it? That's a double entendre. Yeah. So, but yeah. And also, check this out, boys and girls. This is the weirdest oil pan I've ever seen in my life. See, it's only got this little tiny, small thing, which is roughly 13 or 14 inches across by maybe 3 or 4 inches wide by about 4 or 5 inches tall. That's the I'll call it the bottom oil pan. And then above that is what I call, you know, held on by those bolts, is the oil pan or oil pan casting, or the lower engine casting, whatever it is. But in any event, this is the strangest oil pan configuration I've ever seen. I've owned 150 cars in my life. This is car 151. I'm 62 years old, and I used to buy and sell cars anyway. But check this out. You know, this is apparently, it looks to me like it's cast. This is not sheet metal. This thing I'm tapping on, I call that the, it's either the main oil pan or it's the you know, whatever it is, okay? But this is the working oil pan, probably where the oil pump pickup is inside here. And there's your drain plug, okay? And that's easy enough to get to in the normal sense. And, but you know, after the dealer gets to your truck and makes this splattered mess all over the place, then this front cross member is covered with oil. The rear cross member is covered with oil. This thing's covered with oil all over the place. And believe it or not, boys and girls, that X-beam right there, that center cross member, was also splattered with oil. So, you know, if you like your trucks, especially your brand new trucks, ladies and gentlemen, if you like them all splattered with oil, you can take it to the dealer and let them do an oil change for you. And then you're going to have what I call super splatterings. And see, I had to wipe this all down with mineral spirits on a rag to clean that thing. The splatterings even went back as far as that heat shield right back there on the front of that exhaust pipe crossover there. Yeah, and there's, believe it or not, people, there's even some right there on the front of the gas tank. You probably can't see it in this movie, but it's there. And this was all covered with oil. You know, this thing wasn't, apparently it's up above the slipstream of the oil slobberings. But yeah, this was covered with oil, literally covered. And this thing's covered with oil, you know, sludge. We're talking sludge buildup, boys and girls. And you know, I don't like my vehicles messy, especially when they're brand new and they don't even have 3,200 miles on them, okay? This is the front cross member. This is after I cleaned it, all right? And there's the oil filter. I had to wipe up in there and clean up all that mess, you know. That thing definitely needs to be relocated. It's super awkward to get to. You know, there's just like no excuse, okay? It's mounted apparently, this side's on a rubber hose. And that thing that the filter screws into, looks like it's, you know, maybe 4.5 inches in diameter by 2 inches thick. That thing is part of the casting, unfortunately, because this is a rubber hose that leads to the side of it. I was thinking maybe this entire thing would come off of the front of that main oil pan. That's where the oil filter is. And here's another view. Another view for you. And here's the way up in there view. I'm way up in that, my left hand is holding the camera. I'm way up in that space. Here's that space I was talking about. See this giant space where I got my hand wiggling around right now? This space is, this is where the oil filter should be, in my opinion. It could either be here, where my grasping hand is, or in the middle here, more toward the middle, or over here. You know, all this is real easy to access. There's enough space in here to practically, you know, put another gas tank, for crying out loud. This could be where the oil filter is, okay? And as a matter of fact, this cross member here, this is the front cross member. There's already threaded holes, that one and this one, that serve no purpose. Maybe on a 4x4 they fasten a skid plate. But there's a threaded hole there, where my pinky finger is, and another threaded hole there. And these, that bolt there, that's for, and this one, those are for that plastic plate, okay, which goes from here forward. It doesn't go from here back. There's nothing from this bolt back. Well, this is the back of the truck, okay, boys and girls. So yeah, so this space here, this is where your oil filter could be. In an ideal world, wouldn't it be nice if you could get to your oil filter? Yeah, come on, Nissan. Let's get with reality here. This is where your oil filter could be, right here where my hands wiggling around like a spaghetti amoeba. So yeah, think it over and take a couple aspirins. I'm underneath my truck now making a movie for your viewing pleasure. And, you know, instead of putting the oil filter way up in there where you can't see it, it's hard to even get a camera to focus on it. You know, oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, look where it is. Let me show you where it is after I put the shrouding on. That'll be a real mind blower.